I like
Thank
it.
you, Mateo. Feel free to start whenever you're ready.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for the opportunity to talk about Swarmed. It's a project I've been working on for a couple months now, or almost 6 months now, and launched this spring just in time for the spring swarm season. And so what Swarmed is basically a way to automate and handle swarm reports faster and make that whole process easier for beekeepers and easier for the public. And so it's a free service for beekeepers and for homeowners to go and report a swarm. And so the idea is to create this place that people can go to, right? I think for a lot of people, seeing a bee swarm is a maybe scary, at least unexpected experience. And so the idea was to create a service that makes that process really, really easy and sort of diffuses that situation and make sure that beekeeper is able to come by as quickly as possible. So I'll talk real quick about the progress so far. Since launching this March, we've had about 2,300 beekeepers sign up, around 340 swarms, mostly in the US, a lot of them in California, quite a few in Pennsylvania, where I work with a couple associations. Weekly user growth has been around 3.5%, which is something I'm very, very happy with. And so especially over the last couple months, that growth rate has stayed up and beekeepers join every day. And I'm working on some calculations, but essentially right now I estimate around 2.5 million bees have been saved or at least collected using the service. And that's based on an estimate, a very conservative estimate, based on the size of the swarm that people report. Moving real quickly to how the service exactly works. When a swarm is reported, the public, they fill out a quick form answering the kinds of questions that beekeepers always ask about a swarm. And this is really informed by my own experience going on swarm calls, right? Having people call me or seeing people post about swarms on Facebook, on Nextdoor. And so I spend my spring combing through my local Nextdoor page, waiting for someone to post, bees in my backyard, what do I do, help, who do I call? And hoping that I see that post fast enough that I'm able to respond and get the bees before they move on. Because the idea is that people are able to go onto the website, report a swarm, fill out the questions that I would ask a homeowner, right, when they post about a swarm, or when they say I have bees in my backyard. The kinds of questions I would ask before coming are the kinds of things that they fill out on the website. And so when they fill it out, they also put in a location. And using that location, the website then automatically notifies nearby beekeepers by text or by email. And so when beekeepers sign up, they set a radius that they're willing to travel. Say I'm only willing to go 5 miles for a swarm, or maybe I live in a more rural area, I'm willing to go 20 miles for a swarm. There's no reason that you couldn't set your limit further. And so if your radius that you're willing to travel overlaps with a swarm, then you get a notification. And so the system sends a text or sends an email to all those beekeepers, and they get a link. And if they click on that link, they'll see on their dashboard, they'll see the swarm, they'll see all the details that they'd want to know, and then they can choose to claim the swarm. And the idea is that only one beekeeper at a time can claim a swarm. And that has a couple helpful aspects to it. On the one hand, it encourages beekeepers to respond really quickly, right? And that way the homeowner is getting a response quickly, because beekeepers want to claim the swarm as fast as possible before someone else beats them to it. And the idea as well is that the homeowner isn't getting bombarded with calls, right? If you post something, I think we've all seen this before. If you post on Facebook about a bee swarm with a good picture and your phone number, you'll get many, many texts, many people asking if it's still available. This way, only one person reaches out. I've heard stories about multiple beekeepers just showing up at an address without reaching out. And this way, only one beekeeper is getting the address, right? And so only one person's showing up, only one person's reaching out. And so that has advantages for the beekeeper and for the homeowner as well. And then the beekeeper gets that contact information, gets that address, and they're able to then reach out to the person, arrange a time for pickup, and head on out. And there's always the option as well to unclaim the swarm, right? If you get the address, look at it in Google Maps, realize it's traffic, it's too far, you can always unclaim the swarm, and then another beekeeper is able to snap it up. But the idea is only one person at a time takes over the ownership or stewardship of that swarm once it's been reported. So this is what the dashboard looks like for beekeepers. It's made to look like a Facebook feed and made to work well on mobile phones. And so the idea is that you're getting that link on your as a text or as an email. You're clicking on the link, it opens immediately into your dashboard, where here we can see in this example, At the top, a swarm that is unclaimed has just come in, and you can see 0 miles away, so very, very close. One that's half a mile away, and you're able to hit claim, hit claim swarm. And so the second swarm on the bottom, we can see what that looks like. Once you claim the swarm, you get the phone number. You see some comments that the person added. A lot of times people will give specific details about how to access the area or what they've noticed. And so I keep an eye on what people report there as well, to make sure that information is useful and is making sense. And then you get the address. You can click on that and it opens directly into Google Maps. And so two of the things that I'm really happy with is how well this works on mobile phones. It's a website, but it's made to work on mobile, and I see about 70% of users are doing that as well, are using it on their phones. And by using text notifications, that tends to be the fastest way to reach people, and that way people are responding as quickly as possible. And so, like I mentioned, if you post a good picture of a swarm, like maybe like this one on the bottom here, if you post something like that, you can expect that a beekeeper will reach out in 5 to 10 minutes after you post it. Like I see these swarms come in and then I see them get claimed within minutes a lot of times. And I keep an eye on sort of the how long it takes for swarms to be claimed and try to make sure that this process is always as fast as possible, because we want to make sure that we catch the bees before they move on, before they potentially move into a home and this becomes a bigger issue, or they move into an attic and this becomes a real issue that the homeowner is paying for, and to make sure that the homeowner is seeing a solution to this problem, right? That this may be stressful situation. One of the things that I'm really excited about as well is the dashboard for associations. And so I started working on this. This was not part of my original idea, but started working on this um, as a resource, and after associations basically asked for this. And so the idea is that Swarmed is super easy to integrate into an existing Swarm page. And so associations can replace their list of names or their phone number or their email that they have on their Swarm page with my Swarm reporting form. And this can be done in literally a couple clicks. I do a 10-minute phone call usually, and we copy and paste a little snippet of code in that displays my reporting form. And this makes the process quicker and easier for beekeepers and the public, but also more private, right? Putting your phone number on a swarm page is something that a lot of beekeepers are a little bit reluctant to do. And I've heard from beekeepers about the amount of spam calls they get once you post your phone number publicly on the internet like that, right? People crawl the internet for phone numbers and you get spam calls. And so making it really, really easy to just pop Swarmed onto your association page. And this is a service that I do for free, because I want to get as many swarms reported and get the form out there as much as possible, and make sure it's getting to local associations who want to change their process. Something that I do charge a fee for, because this is significantly more work for me, is for associations, especially larger ones, that want to get a custom version of the reporting form going on. And so I have a couple associations out across the country who want to have their branding, they want to have their logo on the form. And so they just want to have a little note at the bottom that says powered by Swarmed. But really what they want too is they want to restrict swarms to just their members. So if an association has a list of swarm responders who they've maybe trained or who they've certified in some way, they may want to restrict the swarms that are coming in through their website to just their members. And so with this custom model, they are able to restrict swarms that come in to just the people who they allow onto their version of the service, and they're seeing data from the service. And so there's a little mock-up on the right of what the dashboard looks like, but essentially you're seeing the weather from where each swarm is being reported. You're seeing where swarms are reported. You're seeing where beekeepers are. So on the right there in the map, you're seeing the coverage of beekeepers. So you can get an idea of how well do I have Sacramento covered, right? Are there parts of the city where if a swarm is reported there, and you can see in the mock-up, right, there's a swarm out here that no one was notified of this because it was outside of any beekeeper's radius. And getting some of that insight into how good is the coverage of an area, what's the average response time, the estimated bees saved. I realize that's not a perfect metric, but I think it's an interesting number to keep an eye on. The percentage of reports claimed. This is a really interesting challenge, and this is something that I keep an eye on is what percent of reports go unclaimed. And right now that tends to be if you post a picture of your wall with bees inside, right, and it's a very clear removal. There's a lower chance that a beekeeper will reach out, and so this is something I'll talk about a little bit later as well. But moving on to how this is financed, because this is a free service, and other than the custom fee model, the custom fee dashboard, this is entirely free. My goal was to have this be a long-term sustainable service that could pay for itself. And so the way that I do that is through donations. In the future, potentially some grants that I've looked at. But really right now it already pays for itself just through donations and an online shop. So I sell a logbook for beekeepers, both a print version and a digital download, and a couple t-shirts, tote bags, things like that. And the sales from those stores and the traffic that the website generates for those stores cover the cost of running the site. Some things that I'm looking forward to, or that I'm working on right now, is making swarms editable, adding some beekeeper notes. And so the idea is that sometimes something will change about the swarm, right? The swarm maybe even moves on, or it moves to a different spot, and they want to update that. And so making the swarms editable for the reporter, and also adding a section where the beekeeper can write notes. I think this is interesting both for the beekeeper, since on their dashboard over time, they'll see kind of an archive of all the swarms they've caught. And so being able to leave notes for themselves is interesting. But also if you're part of an association, and associations want to keep track of things, it can be interesting for the beekeeper to add notes. I've also considered making the information that submitted about a swarm changeable by the beekeeper. So if, for example, the person submits the swarm and they say it's the size of a beach ball, and the beekeeper gets them and says, well, no, that's not really a beach ball. This one was a lot smaller. That the beekeeper, who's kind of the authority or the person on the scene here, is able to change that and say, no, this is actually a smaller swarm, and really kind of reclassify that. So that's something I'm looking at. I want to improve the report follow-up process. So when someone reports a swarm, the emails that they get from me, I want to make sure that communication is better, and that they're getting more confirmation that a beekeeper is on the way, and that something is working here and happening. One thing I'm working on as well is to create a world map of where swarms are reported. This is something that I already offer to associations, but I'd also like to offer a version of that on the front end. I think a lot of people are curious to see where swarms are being reported and where beekeepers are at. Um, the really big thing that I'm working on, and this is really the goal for next year, this is not something I'm very actively working on now, but have been talking to people about, is improving the service for professional beekeepers. I see the swarms that go unclaimed are removals for the most part. And so there the goal is, how do I attract more professional removal specialists to the website? Right, since they need to make money off this. And so it's a kind of a fine line for me to set the expectation. Well, is this process going to be free, or do you have to pay for it? And so the website does set expectations about if the bees are in your wall, you'll likely be charged for this. But right now I'm looking to get more professional beekeepers to use the site, and find a way to get those swarms that are obviously removals really pushed to them, and make sure that they're dealing that. So when beekeepers sign up, I do ask them whether they're willing to do cutouts. And so in the future, I'm looking to make that a better process and make sure that they're able to benefit financially, or make their business work through Swarmed, and also get some of those removals, get some of those removals claimed as well. Um, in the future too, looking at more and more partnerships, I think that's a really valuable direction to take this in. And breaking that into sort of four main groups would be the sort of nonprofit direction, right, things like the Bee Informed Partnership, the Bee Conservancy. I've thought about going the route of basically talking to wholesalers, Dedant, Man Lake, either looking for a sort of sponsorship, or asking them to host the website, or host the reporting form on their website, the way an association would, right, as a way of showing that they're a thought leader in the beekeeping community, that they're active, because the website works anywhere, right? And so there's no reason why Dedant can't host this swarm service on their website, because it works wherever their customers are. And then direction that I'm also very interested in going in is as more and more swarms come in, is the research direction with the Linear Bee Lab, or with I've talked to a couple of state agricultural extensions who've reached out, universities. I think it's really interesting how little data there is on swarms. I would have thought that that there'd be rough estimates out there of, say, right, there's roughly 3 million bee colonies in the US. They have a year-over-year likelihood of swarming, and it's so and so high. But I haven't seen any statistics. I've seen Dr. Seeley's estimate that only 1 in 4 swarms survives in the wild. But other than that, or just out in nature on its own, then only 25% of swarms survive. But other than that, I have not seen a lot of data on swarms. And so I don't come from a bee biology standpoint here, but I'm interested in seeing what sort of research potential there is once more and more swarm data comes in. And lastly is the public partners, right? Cities, even 911, first response, USDA, looking at some of those partners and seeing if they can help get the word out, get the website out more. I talked to a lot of cities who get a lot of phone calls about bee swarms, and have no resource or nothing to do when people call about a bee swarm. And of course, when people call 911 about the sort of perceived emergency of bees landing, that's wasting 911's resources, and we want to make sure that those bees are going not to 911. Those aren't the people to deal with the bees, but are going to a beekeeper who can really deal with them. So last couple of future goals before I wrap up is to keep adding features. I have a long list of things that I'm interested in expanding into and incorporating feedback. I think a lot of beekeepers have really good insight, and they share that insight about what could go better or what could be added. So looking to always be improving that. And there's always a long list of things that are getting added each week. I want to make some of that swarm data available for research. I want to partner with more associations and cities. I think right now about 24 associations are either talking to or are already using the service. And then the last thing is quite technical, is increasing the number of swarms being reported, and a lot of that is search engine optimization, really all going towards the goal of when you Google bee swarm, what do I do? Or I have bees in my backyard, what do I do? That this website comes up as one of the top results. And this takes time, and it's quite a technical process, and something that I'm still learning and growing in. But this is a focus now for the next couple months, is make sure that the website itself is ranking as highly as possible. One of the things that helps with that is newspaper articles about the website that link to the website. Any other website that's commenting on or linking to the website, more and more visitors, keywords. I'd like to do some blog posts eventually. You just get as much content out there and as much information about the service out there, so that people can see what the potential is here. And the last thing is really just attracting some of those more beekeeping removal specialists. That's all I have for you guys. I'm happy to take any questions you might have.